Hi everybody, it's DisneyChris here. I am trying something new tonight. I got a new program today, and you can tell by looking at what's going on in front of your very own eyes what this program does. It records my desktop, and at the same time it can record my voice. So I thought I would try something new and show you all some of the processes that I use to make audio mixes and things such as that. And I'm also thinking about doing vlog updates on the new additions to my website. The blog that I have been writing for a few years now is just such a I really like to keep people updated, but I understand it's important, but it's so much work to write down all the things I've added to my site, especially when I put it. The longer I put it off, the longer it takes for me to update. I mean, the longer I let me say that again. This is unedited, by the way, so if I sound like an idiot, it's because it's unedited and I am an idiot. No, just kidding. The thing is, the longer I wait to write a blog, the more I have to write because I'm constantly adding new things to my website. So it reaches a point where I just dread it and I really don't want to do it. If I can do vlog updates now, it'll be so much easier and I can keep you updated much more often. So I haven't decided exactly how I'm going to go about that, but just to kind of test things out for now, I'm going to show you what I do to edit a mix. And this is a program, you can see right here I'm highlighting on my desktop. It's called WavePad. I've been using this program, I think, for 10 years. Maybe not quite 10 years, but a long time. And I know it backwards and forwards. In fact, I use an older version of WavePad than the most recent edition because there's some things that they've added to the new WavePad that I don't like. I prefer this version of it. So I think this is like 5.2 or something like that, and I think they're up to like 9 point something now. So this version is a couple years old, maybe more than a couple years old. The older I get, the less I can keep track of time. But anyway, this is kind of the main event when it comes to my editing. I also use another program called, well, I use Audacity, which I'm just clicked on so you can see what Audacity looks like in case you don't know. Audacity, I find that it's a lot more difficult to do fine-tuned cutting and pasting. WavePad is really easy to do, like cutting out stuff and overlapping things. It's like a no-brainer. Audacity is just a lot less user-friendly when it comes to that. But the reason I use Audacity at all is because there's a couple of functions that WavePad doesn't do that well. So I kind of use it as a backup for a couple of other functions that WavePad doesn't do. One of the ones I use a lot is bass and treble, which I'm highlighting right now. This will increase the bass and lower the treble, or vice versa. And it's just really easy. Let me show you how that works. Let me save this file right here. It's Animotion Obsession. You might not know who the artist is or the name of the song, but you probably unless you're an 80s music aficionado, but I'm sure you would recognize this song, and I'll get into exactly what this mix is that I'm making in just a minute. But first of all, let me save this file to my desktop so I can show you how that function works on Audacity. So I'm just saving the file. Well, I want to save as, because I always save it as a WAV file rather than an MP3, because that way I don't lose sound quality. So everything I save as a wave and not an MP3. So that would require me to do save file as, because currently it is an MP3. So if I just saved it, it would save it in the same format that it currently is. So I'm saving it as a wave file to my desktop. And there it is. There's the file up in the corner here. Now I'm going to drag it into Audacity. See how it looks kind of different in Audacity than it does on WavePad? And it's a lot more difficult to highlight over things and cut and paste. It's just a little bit more cumbersome, and that's why I don't like to use it as much. But one function it's really good at, and I use it all the time for this, is bass and treble. Because all you have to do is slide the treble up or down and slide the bass up or down, and then hit OK, and it does it. It takes a few seconds depending on how long the file is, and you'll see that it looks different after it changes it. See, it changed the dynamic of the wave. This, for those who don't know a lot about audio editing, this picture that you're looking at is called a waveform, and it kind of shows you the peaks and valleys of the audio file. It's kind of a way to see what the file looks like. Now, it's interesting, if you look at this, I'm not saving this because it's not, I don't want to increase the treble and bass. I was just demonstrating that for you all. But if you look at this file down here, well, this is stereo. It's two channels, the left channel and the right channel. And if you look at it, the channel on the bottom is thicker, and the channel up here is skinnier, slightly, which means that the left channel is louder than the right channel, or I don't know which is which. It could be the other way around. I'm not good with my left and right, which means that I want to even out these files because I want the sound to be as loud on both sides. I don't want one channel to be louder than the other, because the peaks and valleys show you how loud the file is. And if the peaks are taller or wider, that means it's louder. So if this is skinnier right here, that means that it's not as loud. And this is thicker, so it's louder. It's a good thing if you don't know about audio editing. It's a good thing I'm the one talking to you, because I don't know any of the technical terms. So I'm completely talking to you in layman's terms. I know a few things like waveform and things like that, but I call things doohickey and whatever. I know there's technical words for it, but I'm self-taught when it comes to all this stuff, and I don't know the technical names for most of this stuff. So I just I know what it is because I've been dealing with it for years and years, and I don't know exactly how to technically describe it, but I know how to show you what I do. So it's a good thing I have this video tutorial thing going on, because it's the only real way I could explain what I do. But anyway, because this file, this part of it is thicker than this part, which means this down here is louder than this up here, I want to even these out. So to do that, I use another program which I use for a lot of cleanup and special things and whatnot, and that one is my third go-to, and that's called Isotope RX. Now this program cost me a lot of money. This is like a real, like the other two program, Audacity is completely free. WavePad cost me like $80, which I paid for like 9 years ago, and once you pay for it, you never have to pay again. But this cost me about $1,200, and fortunately someone who is an anonymous supporter of what I do. They got me the program because I do not have that kind of money. And this program is a miracle worker. It's a godsend. It really makes it possible to do a lot of the things that I do. So, let me just show you one example of what I do with this program. Again, I can just slide the file and it automatically opens it. Now, you'll notice this looks completely different than the wave file. It's got a different look to it. And I'll explain to you exactly in another video, because I'm not going to really do this type of work, exactly what this, and I forget what it's called. Oh, it's called a spectrogram. This is a different type of way to edit using a spectrogram. And I'll show you how I deal with that in an upcoming video. But this time, I'm not really dealing with the spectrogram thing. But what I am see, if I slide this little button here, where you see my mouse, you'll see that it will turn into a wave file. So I can work in this program in either the wave format or in the spectrogram format. So it's kind of like a dual purpose. And you can also slide it and work in both. If you go halfway, you can kind of see both. I've never needed to do both. In fact, I rarely even work in this program in wave. I generally work in spectrogram on this program. But what I want to show you that I use this program for is evening out the levels on both channels, which is what you saw in Audacity, that they're not level. So I go to this little button here, and you can see if I click this arrow, it shows you the names of each of these buttons. I already have that memorized, so if I just look at the little picture, I can tell, but for you guys, I'll show you what it says. It says channel operations, and it's got a little picture of it looks like headphones. And I click on that, and then I go to what's called, I don't even know what these words mean, I just know what it does. It's called azimuth, and I click on suggest, and what it does is it scans the program, and this sometimes takes a minute or two. It'll look at the whole program, and it'll decide two things for you. It'll decide if one channel is louder than the other, and it will also determine if one channel is not even with the other channel. If there's a delay, so the channels are like off kilter, causing like an echo or some sort of a, it sounds off, like the channels aren't evenly matched. So if you look at it, it's scanning the file right now. This is showing you the process, the how far along it is scanning. And if you look at this thing, you see this number is changing because it's looking at it and it's saying, yes, this channel is louder. It's we need to lower this to minus 0.33 in order to even out the channels. And then over here, it's looking at it and saying that there is a delay as well. It's 0.1 too fast, or off the other channel. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm talking about. But anyway, it's just kind of scanning the file and telling you if anything is awry as far as the two channels being even with each other. And once it's done, I just click a button and it automatically fixes it like instantly. And I'll show you how that works. But anyway, while that's going, I'll tell you what exactly I'm editing this evening. I'm working on my Disneyland After Dark chapter, and I decided I wanted to highlight all of the 1980s era grad nights. So I did a lot of research, and I kind of came up with a list of all of the live guest bands that performed at grad night throughout the 1980s. And I've already done part one. I'm splitting this up into two parts because it's really long, because I have about 39 bands and I have one song from each band. So what I've done is I did 1980 to 1984 already, and now I'm working on 1985 to 1989 and all of the groups that have performed in the park. There's a couple I left out because they were really obscure and didn't really have any music I was all that excited about. But I really have included most of the live bands that performed at all of the grad nights over all those years. So, this is the 1985 to 1989 mix, and it will go on my Disneyland After Dark chapter. I like to set up everything in advance, set up like maybe 20 files, and then go through and do all my final editing all at once in one big chunk. And on another session, I'll show you what is involved in what I have called, what I personally have just call final editing. It's not really an official thing, it's just what I call it. So this is done, and you can see that the right channel right here is really off from the left channel. And on the delay, this is the volume. Level means volume. Delay is where the file is in correspondence with the other file, and it's slightly askew. So all I have to do, now that I did suggest, it knows it's giving me a suggestion of what to do, and I agree with it. So all I have to do is hit process, and that just takes a second. And now that's done. And if I want to see if it worked, which I normally don't check because I trust it, but for you guys, I'll show you. Well, it's still saying it's off on the, but at least it's not. Well, see, it's better. It's only like, see, it's not like 40 something. It's only like, you know, and it's going up and down. It's just kind of trying to decide. So it did even it out and made an improvement, believe it or not. So now that that's done, I'm just going to save it. And this time I'm just saving it as the same file that I've already saved because it's already in Wave. And you can't work in Isotope RX in any other format than Wave. If you try to open an MP3 file, it'll turn it into a Wave file. It only deals with Wave. So I can close this program now because I'm done with it for the time being, and let me go back to WavePad, which is my main staple of editing. So I'm going to click off this file because I'm reopening it, I've made changes to it, so I want to get rid of the old one, and I'm reopening the new improved version. Now, when I edit everything, I like to even out the volume level of everything. So there's a couple ways I do that. Again, when you're looking at a WAV file, you're seeing the peaks and valleys of the volume levels, or the level of the loudness, for those who don't understand what volume means. If you don't know what volume means, I can't help you. I don't know why I even said that. But if you look at it, right here, there's a little dip in the volume. So this is one of the reasons I love using WavePad. All I have to do is highlight this little dip right here, and then I go to an option called envelope or envelope. You say potato, I say potato, and this is the little section right here that I highlighted. And the way to fix the level is just to move this little thing right here, this line, and it'll make it louder, or it'll do the opposite. If I put it lower, it'll lower the volume if I want it to do that. But I don't want to do that. I want to raise it. And then if you look at the little box here, this line here and this line here are the same as this line, or this line here and this line here. And this area marks where the file, how far the file can go before it's too loud and it's going over the peak of the file, which causes distortion. So I like to have everything as loud as it can be before it becomes distorted. So you'll see what I mean by that in a minute. But first of all, let me finish what I was doing, and I'll raise this a little bit. Okay. See how it raised that little bump there? And you're like, oh, but that's too loud now. And it is, if I just left it like that. But I want everything to be level with this bottom line and the top line. So, in other words, that makes it as loud as it can be. I don't want it to go over the top and bottom line. And if you look right here, it's going over a little tiny bit. A little tiny bit over won't be a problem, especially since it's only doing it on this side and not on that side. So I'm not worried about that. These are things you just learn through trial and error. And if I make the file bigger, see, you can zoom in real easy and see it bigger. If I look at it bigger, it doesn't look as bad as when you do that. Like right here, it looks like, uh-oh, that's a trouble spot. But if I make it bigger, you'll see, oh, that's not that bad. Okay, so we're okay with that. So I want to make the whole file bigger, or louder, as loud as I can. So what I want to do is highlight this section, go back to envelope again, and do this so that it raises that so that the top and bottom are flush up against those sides. I don't want to do this, because if I do this, what happens is, I'll show you what happens. That's a disaster right there. If you look at that, that's a disaster. Because it's too loud and it's going to be distorted. You don't want it to go beyond that top line and bottom line. You want it to go just up to it, but not over it. So let me go back, get rid of that, and do it the right way this time. So I just raise up a little bit there and even that out there so it's the same level all across. And there we go. That's perfect. At least this half of the file is all set as far as volume goes. Now this half I need to fix, so let me do that now. And I'm going to basically do the same exact thing, but the other way around. And that's a little bit too high there, so I'll lower that. And now, that's pretty good, but I see a couple little valleys here and there, so let me kind of fine-tune it and go back to envelope again. I do envelope a lot. I do a lot of enveloping. I'm not sure why it's called enveloping. I do a lot of that. Okay, so now, this file is at the right level that I want it to be. It's got a good, it's up against both sides, it's pretty even. There's not a lot of peaks and valleys. You'll see it kind of valleys here, but at the bottom it doesn't. If it was like if it looked the same on the bottom as it did on the top, then I would fix it. But because the bottom is all level, I'm going to leave it. Because if I go any higher, it's going to distort this part here by going way down. It won't just do half of it, it'll do the whole, it'll do both sides of it. So anyway, what I do, this is going to be the first song in my mix. Originally I was going to start off with this song called Midnight Star, or that's the band, Midnight Star. The name of the song is No Parking on the Dance Floor, but it's not as well known of a song. This is kind of I like to kind of start off with a bang and end with a bang when it comes to a mix. So this song, Obsession, is from the same year as, and I'm doing these in chronological order. So 85, then 86, then 87. So because this Animotion Obsession is the same year, it doesn't matter if I start out with this song and then have this Midnight Star No Parking be the second song. It doesn't make any difference. So it's just, this song is just a better song to start with because it's a familiar song. I'll play a minute of it so you can recognize it, so you know what song it is.
You are obsession. I cannot sleep. I am possession. Unopened at your feet.
That increasing, and I'm doing that with my mouse. I just move the little circle thing on the center of my mouse, and I can increase and lower, so I can get in there and look really close at it and make little. This is another reason I love WavePad. I can go in and I can take out just this much, just highlight it and hit delete, and I'll take it out. I didn't want to do that for real. I'm just demonstrating what it's capable of doing. That is not so easy to do on Audacity. That's one reason I really prefer WavePad. You can really get in there and just take out a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a second if you want to. So let me undo that little cut that I just made because that was just to demonstrate. But one thing I do want to show you is I like to, this is at the very beginning of the file. I like to get rid of that in case there's any noise there at the beginning. Go right up to the and see where the audio starts is where you see the first bumps on the picture. So I know that if I go right up to there, I'm not cutting off any of the music. It's just the you know, the little bit before the music starts. So I can cut that. And then what I want to do is go back and put in a little bit of silence. And I usually put about 200 milliseconds of, I guess that means milliseconds, ms. I don't know. I don't know what it means. I just put 200 of whatever this is in. At the beginning of my files, I usually put 200. So that way, before the audio begins, you have complete silence. You know for a fact because you cut out whatever was there and put complete silence in yourself. I always like to do that. So now the file is even. It's got the right amount at the beginning. Let me listen to this. I'm not hearing any issues with background noise on this file. It's pretty, you know, it's from the mid-80s. Sound recording was pretty good, you know, at that point. And also, you know, these are not, you know, things that I found on cassette tapes and have to, you know, clean them up. These are digital recordings, you know, they're not going to require a lot of cleanup as far as, you know, the background hissing and that type of thing. Some of them that I have here I couldn't find, you know, some of them are a little bit more obscure songs, so I had to take them from maybe a vinyl source that somebody posted on YouTube, and I downloaded the audio from YouTube from a vinyl recording of it. And then I would have to do a lot more cleanup on it to get rid of scratches or background noise that's just kind of commonplace with vinyl recordings. But anyway, this is our first song, Obsession, and it fades out at the end. So it doesn't have a clean ending, it has a fade out at the end. So I just wanted to kind of listen to that and see if I'm happy with the way that it fades out, if I want to make any improvements to how it fades out, and I am happy with how that fades out, so I don't need to make any changes. So basically this song is done. I don't need to do any more work on this. I'm going to put a little bit of silence at the end of it. I'm going to put about 5,000 at the end, and it's because I'm going to do some work in this area and I want a little play area here. So anyway, let me get to the next file. Now this is interesting. Now if you look at this one is completely even top to bottom, right? You don't see any issue with it peaking and valleying like the other file did. So I don't really need to do any enveloping at all with this file. It's pretty evenly spaced. However, it's not loud enough because there's all this empty space on the top and bottom. So to make it louder, all I have to do is amplify it. And that, I hit amplify over here, and then I can, this box shows you where it will end up when it kind of gives you a preview of how it will look when you're done. And then I can just click on this and it'll like go up about 12% on every click. And so I went up to 150%, 156%, and that looks about right where I want it from looking at this little preview area. So I just hit apply and it makes it louder, and now it's at the volume that I want it to be, and it's at the same volume as the song that precedes it. Now I'm going to do a little bit of editing on this one because, and one of the reasons I didn't want to start with this song too is because it has kind of a weird introduction at the end where it sounds like you're out in the city streets and some guy is yelling at you, and I'll show you what that is. It's kind of funny. I'll play it just for humor purposes.
Hey, baby, you can't park here!
I can't park here!
Move the car beside somewhere! Come on, move your car, will ya?
Excuse me, madam. You're standing still in a no parking zone. If you don't get a move on that body, I'll be forced to give you a ticket. So get what the...
So I don't want all that nonsense at the beginning of the song. If it was a song I was just using on its own, it would be fine. But because I'm making a mix out of it, I don't want dialogue and drama at the beginning of it. And it's also kind of negative. I don't know. I don't really like people yelling at each other. So I really have no problem getting rid of it. So this is where the music starts and all that nonsense ends. So all I'm going to do is highlight over all of what you just heard and hit cut. So now you see the song starts where I want it to start without any nonsense. I just hit this button called fade. Let me do that again. Because I made that cut, it kind of it'll have a little bump at the beginning because it doesn't fade in at the very beginning. It just cuts into it. So if I highlight just a tiny little bit of it and hit fade in, it'll have a nice, clean, sharp ending without a bump in the volume. An abrupt little bump there. Then I'm going to add a little silence at the beginning. And then it doesn't matter how much because it's not going to be the beginning of this mix. It's going to be mixed together with the other file. So now I can check it out and see how it sounds. If it sounds clean at the beginning. And it sounds good at the end. So now I'm ready. And this file's done. It doesn't have any background noise or anything that bothers me. So let me undo that. I really only added that silence at the beginning so I could make sure that it sounds okay. It has a nice, crisp, sharp intro. So now what I want to do is I'm copying this file and I'm going to paste it onto the first song. But I want it to kind of cut into the fade out of the first song so that it's a continuous music. There's no interruption in the music at all. Kind of how they do on the radio, you know. One song fades into the other. So what I'm going to do is kind of, through trial and error, kind of find the right spot where I want the second song to cut off the first song. So let me listen to the first song. That sounds good. I like that do at the end. That sounds like a good spot to cut in with the next song. So now I'm going to do paste mix. Paste mix will paste over what's already there. It won't cut off what's there. It'll go on top of what's already there. So both things will be heard, and it'll sound like a nice smooth transition from one song to the next. So I just hit paste mix, and it'll paste right over. So now let me check and see if I like how one song fades into the other. Let me... Yeah, that sounds good. I'm happy with that. So those are the first two songs. It doesn't normally take as long when I'm not describing everything while I'm doing it. I just do it. So now I've done the first song and the second song, and I want to just kind of get rid of that file because it's going to be in my way. And here's the two files together. Now I want to save this. I save a lot. That's important. But I want to change the name, so I'm going to do save file as, because I want to call it 80s Grad Night Part 2, 1985 to 1989. I can get rid of this one now because I've saved it under a different name. It's a new file. And from now on, when I add to this file, I'm just going to save it as this. I'm not going to save as, I'm just going to save. It's already in Wave, and it's already named the right thing and everything. Okay, so now the next file is this one. Shannon, let the music play. Now, this has a little dip right here. You see this little valley here? So let me fix that with the envelope option, feature, or whatever you want to call it. Now, because all of this is even, and it's easy just to amplify it all in one chunk, I went a little too far with it. I want everything to be even before I amplify it. I'm doing it a little bit different than I did the first file. So I'm going to go back and redo this and make it a little less of a... So that's a little bit better, but this little spot here, see, it's just kind of trial and error and just looking how it is, and then if it doesn't work out, go back and fix it. Okay, so now it looks pretty evenly spaced. This little spot here looks like it's getting a little loud. So let me do that. And again, I went too far. Let me go up and do this.
Dance what I see.
Oh, I forgot to undo what I did, so do this. Alright, so that looks pretty good. So now I'm just going to amplify the whole thing. I don't need to go to 156. It's not as quiet as the other one was, so 120 looks about right.
'Cause love just can't be proved.
Again, not a lot of background noise on this, so I don't need to do any cleanup on it. And it's pretty much ready to go, so all I have to do is go back to my original file with the first 2 songs and just do it again. Paste the first song, try to find a good spot for it to interrupt the song that's fading out. I think I want it to be right before that beep or whatever they're saying. So, see how that sounds. Now I didn't have, the thing is, I didn't have it all the way to the edge. Like I wanted it to start, I wanted the music to start right away, but there was a little bit of an empty space here that I forgot to cut out. So now it's where I want it to be. Now I'll undo what I just did and do it again, and it'll start the audio, it'll go right away. There won't be a delay in it. Alright, glad this came up. Maybe you don't hear it, but I am a perfectionist. And I can hear, as one song is fading into the other, a little bump right here from the other song, right about in this spot. I hear a little bit of the drum beat residually sticking around a little bit too long. So what I'm going to do is show you something I use Isotope RX for. And this is really incredible how it does this. So, I'm highlighting the little area where I heard that bump. Let me make sure that that's where I heard it. I hear it right here. Maybe, you probably don't even notice it, but I can hear it. It bothers me. So I'm highlighting that, copying it, and making a new file out of it, and saving it to my desktop as a new file that's just that little section. Then I'm going to open up Isotope RX and move that little section over here. And now you can see, kind of by looking at a really small fraction of a file, exactly what the spectrogram does. It shows you where all the noise is alive. You can visually see where the noises are in the file. If I play this, I hear that bump right here. You see this little spot right here where it has a little bump right there? That's where I heard that. So I wasn't imagining things. There's really a bump right there. So the best way to clean that up, and this is a miracle worker, I'm just going to take a little bit of a section right before it that has the qualities that I want the section after it to also have. And I highlight it and I hit copy. And then I put the cursor where the issue, right before the issue, and I hit paste. And it gets rid of, I might have to do it again because it left a little thing. It just got rid of that little spot, but it didn't have to mess up any of the other sounds. Everything else is not going to be affected. I just got rid of that little bump that I didn't want without affecting any of the other music. And I can even fine-tune it a little bit more. and it kind of messed up that little spot right there, but I don't know if I'll be able to tell. And if it does, I'll fix it. If it doesn't make a difference, I'll leave it alone. But I see a little line right here too, and while I'm here, I might as well kind of get rid of that in case that's causing a problem too. So now we've got a nice clean file here. You know, there's no bump anymore. I'll show you the before and the after, and now we can listen to it. And it's gone. The bump's gone, and it sounds perfect. It didn't mess up that noise, the other noise that's happening. So now I just hit File, Save File. I just saved all my changes, so I can get rid of this now. I'm going back into WavePad. I'm going to delete the old one, because if I try to reopen it, it'll just reopen the old one unless I get rid of it first. So I open this up. Now, this is the exact spot that I already have highlighted. So all I have to do is copy this, go back to the original file and hit paste, and voila, I got rid of that issue. Now what I just showed you is kind of what's involved in when I do my final editing. I go through and listen to every song, and every time I hear any sort of a problem, I do exactly what I just showed you. I highlight the area, I open WavePad, or I'm sorry, I open Isotope RX, and I fix it using that spectrogram. So that's why final editing can be a really involved procedure, because depending on how many things I hear wrong with the original file, because I go in and one at a time, little by little, I clean up every single little issue that I hear in every single file, and that can take forever, depending on how many issues there are. So, now we've got 3 songs together. Now, the rest of what I'm going to do is pretty repetitive, so there's no real reason for you to be along for the ride. But I do want to see if I can find one file that has any issues as far as background noise, so I can show you how I get rid of background noise. So let me save what I just did. I kind of went through them earlier, and there was one that I did notice had some background hiss in it. Let me see if I can figure out which one that is. Alright, this file has some background noise at the very beginning, but it's not throughout the whole, like it fades out really nice and clean. I'm not hearing any hiss, any noise. Like, if you listen closely at the beginning of this file, you'll hear some hum. It's more of a hum than a hiss in this case. You hear that little hum right there? It kind of, it's background noise. But once the louder music starts, you can't hear that anymore. So really the only problem area is that little part at the very beginning with those 3 clicks. Now, what I could do, in fact what I think I will do in this case, is just cut out those little clicks at the beginning. And the reason I want to do that is because, again, we're fading in one song to another. And if I leave those clicks, it might not sound very clean if I put those over the other song fading out. So I think just to make things sound a little bit more sharp, I'm going to cut out those little clicks at the beginning. But I'll do that later, because there's not really much to show you that I haven't shown you already involved in doing that. So let me find the song that I did hear that had hiss throughout the whole thing. I know there's one of them on here.
The world
No, that one's fine.
Long chicken.
Are you guys recognizing some of these songs? I'm not a big 80s fan as far as music. I'm just kind of like, I like to include things for all musical tastes on my site, and I like to be all-inclusive. I like to include everything that ever happened at Disneyland, whether I'm a fan of that type of music or not. I mean, most of the music I am a fan of, but there's some things I'm not that into. The 80s is one of them. I mean, these songs that I picked are okay, but if I had to pick, it wouldn't be my first choice as far as music. Let me see how this one is. Broken Wings. No, that one's okay. There was one that there really was one that was really bad. Let me just find it. That one's okay. That one's alright. Still have more. Again, I don't know a lot about 80s music. Okay, that was Expose. Men Without Hats. Let me show you something, because I just kind of accidentally came over. You see how this file cut off? I'm probably going to look for a better version of this that doesn't get cut off at the end. Wait, listen how it cuts off. See, it cuts off at the end. What I could do, which I probably won't do because the other option's a little bit better, but if I didn't have that other option, what I could do is fade out the ending so that it doesn't cut off at the end. But now it ends too quickly. There's no echo at the end. There's no reverb. They call that reverb. Fade it out a little bit better. So what I could do is add in the reverb. So I can highlight just the tail end of it, because I don't want the whole song to be echoey. Just the tail end of it, and I hit an option called reverb. I can adjust the amount of reverb it has, and then I just hit apply. And then it usually lowers the volume a little bit for some reason when you do reverb on WavePad, so I usually will bump up the volume about 120 after I do that. And that actually sounds fine. I might not have to find another file. It actually has a nice clean ending, and it doesn't sound bad at all. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So that saved me the bother of having to find a better version of the song. So let me see if I can still find that other. So I showed you how I do that. That's kind of interesting. Let me see if I can find that song with all the noise in it. Ooh, I think this is it. It does have some noise at the beginning, though. it seems to have a little bit of noise before the music like gets loud, but on the fade out it's fine, but at this very beginning it's really it's got a lot of hiss and buzz. Can you hear that? It's not great. So I'm gonna fix that at some point, not right now. I want to find that one song that was just terrible. And if I can't find it, I'll show you another example, and we'll end. Aha! I found it. You hear that? How it fades out again? You can hear all that awful background noise, that hissing, that just that shh noise. I can't stand it. I hate that. So what I'm gonna do, before I do anything else, is even out the file. We got a big valley right here. I'm gonna make that louder. And then we want to lower that a little bit. That's a little bit too loud, that spot. And this kind of fades out a little. I want it to remain loud to the end, so we're gonna make this a little bit more even. Okay, so this might need to go up a little bit to even out with the end. I hope I'm not boring everybody. You've probably all clicked off by now. Anyway, this is even, so now we're gonna amplify it. It's about okay, so now that's that. Now I'm gonna save the file. The Force MD's Tender Love. Okay, never heard of it. I think I've heard the song, but I never heard of the group, and before now I couldn't tell you the song because I just don't listen to 80s music. Okay, so now I'm going to open that file in Isotope RX. Now, you see all this, we're looking at the whole wave, or the whole spectrogram now. Now, right here, this is what noise looks like, hiss, in a spectrogram. Hold on, I gotta... This is what hiss looks like. It looks like hiss, doesn't it? This looks like hiss. It just looks messy and hissy and dirty. And if I just highlight that part and play it, you'll hear that hiss really good. You hear all that noise? Okay, so there's two ways I can get rid of that noise using this program. The best way is to find in the same file a spot where there's complete silence except for the hiss. But I don't think we're gonna luck out, because if you look down here at the bottom, the noise on the let me explain. This goes from bass to treble. Down here is the bass. You'll hear it if I highlight. Can you hear it? That's bass. Up here is treble. Not trouble. It is trouble, but it's treble. See, that's the higher pitched sounds. This is the lower pitched sounds, and then it goes from lower to medium to high. Now, I don't want to highlight over this part because I don't want to get rid of the bass. So even though there's no noise other than the hiss in this part, if I highlight the whole spectrogram, it's going to go over part of the music, and I don't want it to get rid of that. I only want to highlight what I want to get rid of. So because I can't do that, let me show you what would happen if I did that, just as an example. I open this, which is called denoise. You see right here in blue? Denoise. So what I would do if there wasn't any of the other sound down here is I would highlight it and click on Learn. So it's learning the sound perimeters of the highlighted section, and then based on what it just learned, it will get rid of anything that sounds like that in the whole file. So if I highlight something that I want to keep, it'll get rid of it. So I'll show you what I mean. Because I highlighted all over all that bass that I want to keep, if I get rid of it, it's going to sound terrible. Let me show you more drastic. I want to undo that because I didn't have the levels up high enough over here. Hit process again. I'll give you more of an idea. We're almost done. I hope you made it to the end without getting too bored. So I'm highlighting that, and look, it got rid of all that noise for the most part. But the problem is it got rid of all the bass too, and this is what it sounds like. But listen to how good it sounds compared. Listen to this. That sounds so much cleaner. There's not enough bass. See how that sounds awful. There's no bass at all. So that's not an option. We can't do that. It's not going to work out. So my other option to get rid of that is I have some already presets, they call them, that I've made. And some that are already, so you can save, anytime you do one of these cleanups, you can save it so you can use it again with the same parameters in the future. Some of these down here were automatically installed when the program was installed. Light, auto denoising, remove hiss, remove rumble and hiss. None of these preset ones that they provide ever work good. I never use them. But as you look here, these are ones that I've made. Walt A, Tiki Instrumentals, Sleepy Hollow. Those are obviously my ones. But one that I've made a while ago that seems to really work well on a lot of files, not always, but on a lot of them, is this one that I put called Oldies. And if I click on it, it'll set the parameters that I had originally chosen way back when I created that. So let me see what happens if I highlight that same area and do my preset cleanup called Oldies on top of it. Let me do that section and see if that works, if I'm happy with it. And if it is, then I'll do the whole file. But right now I'm testing to see if that's gonna work. This sometimes will take a minute. It's kind of slow to do the cleanup. See, it got rid of all that noise. But it might not have gotten rid of the bass. So let's see if that is satisfactory. A little bit better, but still not good. There's a little too much bass taken out. So what I'm going to do is lower these a little bit and see if that makes a difference. See if that's a little bit less, because it kind of left a tinny, they like to call that a tin-y sound, so I don't want that. So let's see if by lowering the reduction curve, the amount of the reduction, if it makes a difference, if it's better. And if not, I'll try another option. I'll try maybe one of the other options that I've preset. That's not bad. Let me see how it sounds at the beginning of the file. I'm not 100% on this, but we'll see. I'm thinking of another, also trying one other thing, but we'll see. Sorry, it's kind of slow. See how it got rid of all that crap? That doesn't sound bad at all. If you go back and listen to what it sounded like originally. It's not really bad, but what I think I'm going to do is lower this a little bit more and try one other idea. I'm going to highlight just part of it and not get rid of the bass in it. So I'm leaving the bass alone. And let's try that. This is going to take a second. So while it's doing that, because we're just about to wrap things up, I want to explain that right now, what's coming up on my website, right now I'm working on several editions that I'm planning on for Disneyland After Dark. And if I go into this folder on my desktop, you can see here, these are all the files I'm currently working on. And this Country Music Jubilee up to that one, these 16 files are ready for what I call final editing. These have all been set up, they're ready to go. I just have to do the final cleanup on all of these. These three, which I'm highlighting now, oops, I'm working on setting them up for final editing. They're not ready for final cleanup yet. Plus, I'm working on the one that we're working on together right now, so that's 4 more. I want to get about 20 done, so that means 1 more in addition to the ones you're looking at right here. This is giving you all a little preview of what I'm adding to the site in the near future. So even if you don't see a lot of new stuff being added to the site for a couple weeks or a week or 3 weeks, it's because I'm setting it all up and I'm getting it ready, and then I'll get everything posted on the site all in one big chunk as I get the final editing done. So I kind of go in stages. Okay, so this is still doing its cleanup. I'm also working on Song of the Day is going to be on DisneyChris.com, is going to be the regular lineup. I mean, in other words, just regular rotation of songs until about mid-June, when I'm going to do probably, which I've done before, a week-long tribute to Donald Duck, because Donald Duck's birthday is in early June. So I like to do a little nod to the duck in June. And then again in July, I'm going to do 10 days of 4th of July songs. beginning July 1st through July 10th, which is kind of something I've been doing for a few years now. So that's what I'm sort of planning for Song of the Day. Now this is about done. And let's see how that sounds, beginning to end. I'm just checking little areas where I think it might be there could be problems. That's much better. Now, it is a little rumbly at the end because there's a little too much bass at the end. But what I can do to fix that is highlight. This is where the rumble's coming from right here. You see this heavy line right here? So if I highlight that and fade it out, it might get rid of that problem. Let me see how that sounds. Yeah, that's better. Still a little too rumbly. And what I might do, and I'll do this after I end things with you guys, is I might find a better copy of this, because it just sounds really messy. If I can find a cleaner copy of it, then I'll go with that rather than trying to clean it myself. Fortunately, with songs like this that are like really well-known and popular songs, it's easy to find a good copy of it. A lot of times I'm dealing with materials that are very rare, and they're not pop songs from the 80s. They're like obscure narration from an attraction that closed in 1958, you know. I don't have any other option but to do the cleanup on it myself. But that kind of gives you a little bit of an idea of how I do cleanup. And at some point, I'll show you how I do cleanup on a much more really old file that's really dirty and really needs a lot of cleanup on it. But yeah, this is a good program. But I'm not going to save any of the changes that I just made, because I'm going to do what I just said. I'm going to find a better copy of it. But I wouldn't have come to that decision if I hadn't have tried to clean it up myself first. So I needed to do that in order to come up with my plan. So there's always a method behind the madness. So I'm going to end things. I hope you all enjoyed this. I hope I didn't bore you. I don't know if this is very interesting to people, but I thought I would just kind of show you all what I do. And as you can tell, there's about 20 songs in this mix, and I only did 3. So there's a lot of work to put these mixes together, and it's a lot of trying to figure out how things flow one song to the next, and you know, it's a lot of work, but I love it, and I love sharing the music of Disneyland and the history of Disneyland with other people who appreciate it. So it's all worth it to me. So hope you enjoyed the video. And my next video, I'll try to do a vlog, an audio editor's vlog. Not, I guess that's kind of misleading, because kind of what I showed you today was an audio editor's vlog. But what I mean is an update on all the new additions that I have made to my site, kind of fill you in on what I've added and kind of the history behind some of the tracks and why I've included them and that type of thing. Kind of the same thing that I've been doing with my written blog, but I'm thinking about phasing out the written blog and doing video vlogs instead to keep you updated. It just might make things easier for me, and then probably a little bit more entertaining for you, and probably a lot more people will want to watch a video than read all this, paragraphs and paragraphs. It's easier to watch a video. Anyway, I'm a very long-winded person, as I'm sure you all know, because of my podcast. If you listen to my Jiminy Crickets podcast, I love to hear the sound of my own voice. But anyway, that's all for now. And I hope to see you all again soon. And don't forget to stop by DisneyChris.com, home of the Disneyland Magical Audio Tour. Bye-bye.